Now, you're nominated in this category because you do a lot for women, and I've got a list of things here that you do. It took me days and days to read through it. It's called Happen Together, what you work on. Just give us a précis of what you do, Eve.
So that's a company that I run, which is a community interest company, and our tagline is just making good things happen. So it's through a mixture of facilitation and coaching and design and research. And that's been going only for about 18 months, but comes the back off a sort of another social enterprise. And after 15 years actually as a lawyer, as a human rights lawyer, I kind of moved over to think really about how we sort of support people, particularly women. Most of my clients are women, trying to fight for services across education, health, social care, how we really support them to take those steps for themselves really and be in a better position in life and connected within their communities, and really highlight the strengths that they've got rather than women in crisis, which is what I was experiencing as a lawyer. Yeah.
What was it that made you make that step then, to give up the day job, so to speak, to focus on this area of life?
I think it's a huge privilege being a lawyer, and it was a brilliant job for 15 years, and I went into it seeing it as a route for social justice. That was absolutely at its core. But I think in time it felt like I was in a position, of being an advocate for people, of speaking on behalf of people, which is often needed, but actually I wanted to facilitate a different way of being in which you work with people, and in which you really help people come together and see their strengths and feel their own strengths. Spent a lot of time in multi-professional meetings with social workers, educators, mental health workers, and with families that are in crisis. And the law in the end only takes a particular lens, and it's quite frustrating because actually in a system with all the cuts that we see, people had gone into those professions to make a difference, and they didn't have the tools and resources to make the difference they wanted. Often they were women, because it's predominantly women in the public sector. And then you had a family that had a whole load of skills and knowledge and love, but were without the support that they needed. And unfortunately in those scenarios, I didn't feel that the conditions were there to actually come up with the best for all the people around the table. And the bit that I enjoyed the most was trying to facilitate that and take a more person-centred approach and get people working together. But I couldn't just do that as a lawyer, so I needed to kind of retrain really and to take a step back and kind of scan the horizon and the landscape and think about how I could kind of work my way around and maybe come up with a different way, a different approach.
There must be so many stories and lives you've been able to change over the years. Just give us an idea of what you've been able to do on the ground, because it's great to be able to sit in meetings and facilitate. But what are the stories and the lives that you've been able to change?
So I guess since outside of the law, so one of the projects that I guess really kind of rekindled my hope is setting up a commuter bike project actually in my local park.
That's Bike Hive, isn't it?
That's the Bike Hive. And that was just, part of it was being back in Manchester after being away in London and elsewhere with my own kids at school and going, how can my kids end up going to the same primary school, inner city primary school that I'd been at, and going, how come 20 years on, there weren't more people on bikes, there was still a lack of community cohesion. It's a predominantly Asian community, and kind of just thought, right, okay, I'll stop being just the crazy woman on a bike with 3 kids. I'll kind of go into the local community centre really and talk to some of the other mums and go, do you want to get on a bike? Which was easy to do on just a static bike, and people got off and they took off their kind of various layers of clothing, and then they went, oh my God, I've got power. And these women that weren't actually used to, didn't have the freedom to go on a bike in public, that wasn't something that was acceptable, but in their community centre they could have a sense of their own strength. And then in time they went, okay, I'll come and get on a bike in the local park. And then in time they got their sisters and their aunts and their mums and their kids, and then they said, actually some of them, not most of them weren't then cycling to school or local journeys, but they were walking more with their kids, they were outside more, they're being more active. And it was those changes, some of those things you do kind of as a volunteer, that I think a lot of women do with their sleeves rolled up, that make a massive difference. And that for me was a real sense, actually I want to be in those spaces of a diversity of people, outdoors, being active, which is what I love, feels good, and in a place that feels a real sense of equality really.
That's just one thing. I've been reading the list of things that you're involved. Just tell us a little bit about Diva Mank, because it sounds exciting. What is it?
So Diva Mank is about putting the diva into devolution in Greater Manchester.
You sexied up that.
It's full of awesome women. It doesn't really, it's absolutely brilliant. So I grew up in Manchester, surrounded by absolutely brilliant women who, for me, were the ones making a difference everywhere, in the workplace, in the communities, everywhere. And I couldn't quite believe coming back that obviously we saw the devolution signing. I don't know who saw that awful image of...
Explain what that was.
So devolution obviously is a hand down of some powers from Westminster to Greater Manchester. And many of you may have seen in the publicity, there was an image of sort of a group of men looking very smug, all white men, looking very smug around a table, writing something. And I was like, well, this is meant to be the hand down of power to the people of Greater Manchester, and these people are not the people that I see when I walk out of my door and who I'm inspired by. So in the run-up to the election of our mayor, just did a call out, who else is feeling a bit sick of this, wants to do something, and there was like a massive response. So it started off on the kitchen table, there was a few of us, but the anger was huge. And then we went, okay, let's see how we can increase women's participation and voice and power within devolution. So that's just been, I've got a colleague here, Katie, two of us have facilitated events across Greater Manchester, just saying, okay, what are the things that women care about and how can we make devolution work with women for women, by really going out to places that women are and saying we can do it better, we can really do it better.
I agree with you, I really do. It just shows, doesn't it, if you can get up and just be the first voice, there are voices out there who agree with everything you're saying.
Absolutely. There was, do you know what, the first event, we put it out, and it was only locals and a local community centre, and the idea was open to everybody, and the frustrating thing was actually it booked out so quickly it was no longer open. So we had to do more and more. But yeah, women want to get involved. They are involved, they're doing it. We just, like, events like this have to, really important to amplify that and make women's roles visible. The things that they're doing, and we just need to keep shouting and singing and marching and coming together over and over again until other people see that.
We're half the population, it's time they put us on the posters.
52%, 52%, and there's power in that. There's a brilliant quote by Alice Walker, which is, the most common way people give up their power is thinking they don't have any power, and I guess that would be my message here, is we have power. And we need to use that power, and we need to use that power as a sisterhood, really, for each other, because no one else, nothing that we have won in the last 100 years has come to us without fighting for it. We absolutely stand on the shoulders of giants, and we owe it to every single one of them to really fight for the future and fight for our future daughters and granddaughters and our sons. I've got 3 boys. Actually, it's better for them, and they know that. So, let's make society better.
So right, because I'm so inspired. I could talk to you all afternoon. Thanks, Eve. Eve Holt. Catherine, what you've done really is inspiring. Speaking to Eve about the wider community. Yours was more of a niche community, but one we didn't really know about because it tends to be a taboo subject. And it's postnatal depression is the phrase we use. But explain what you did and why you did it.
Well, I had postnatal depression myself after my eldest daughter was born 6 and a bit years ago. I actually came to the mother and baby unit here in Manchester. I'm from Carlisle, that's where Happy Mums is based, but I have a bit of a special affection for Manchester because it's where I came to recover and get better. And it's not really an overstatement to say that the staff in that unit saved my life. I had made a plan to end my life, and it was only being admitted to the unit that means I'm really here today. So any opportunity to big up Manchester and particularly the staff at the Wythenshawe Mother and Baby Unit. But Happy Mums is all about actually peer support for women who are in a similar situation to what I was in. My colleague here today, Amy, she's our Deputy Chief Exec, and she faced postpartum psychosis. We work with women with anxiety, a whole range of maternal mental health problems, and we offer them an opportunity to come to a safe place and share their experiences. So we're not offering clinical or medical intervention at all. That's not our remit, that's not our role. We work in partnership with statutory agencies, and we offer them that community-based, peer-led support.
Did you feel alone when you were going through that? Was that part of your inspiration to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt alone. I felt like I was literally the only woman in the world who'd ever experienced this, and I must have some kind of big arrow pointing to my head and saying, this woman has failed as a mother, she can't do it, and everyone else can do it, but she can't cope. And that's how it felt, and that wasn't the case at all. And it took me actually meeting women in the unit who were going through something similar to realise that I wasn't the only person, and actually it wasn't my fault. I'd done nothing wrong, and I wasn't a failure as a mother. I was just ill. I had an illness, and I was able to recover from that with the right treatment, just like you would any other medical condition. So that's the message that we want to pass on to women, that they're not on their own, particularly where we're based up in Carlisle in North Cumbria. It's a rural area. It's challenging to get access to the services. We don't have a high birth rate, so we can't get the kind of specialist services that other places might have. So the need for that community-based support is even greater.
And the thing about online as well today is you can be physically and geographically on your own, but you don't have to be anymore. You can basically connect with anybody anywhere, and that's part of what you do.
Yeah, we just base it in any way or shape that we can bring people together to make them feel, make them recognise that they're not the only ones who are going through this, and make them feel a connection with somebody else. And that's what our groups do, and that's where I feel proudest when I see women in the groups who have perhaps been really quite ill themselves, but been coming to the groups for a while, and they take on that role of supporting the newer women coming into the group, and that's what it's all about. But yeah, just bringing people together.
And one of those is Amy, who was one of the people who nominated you as well. What a story you've been through, from, as you say, postpartum psychosis to deputy CEO. You do get better, not just better, you blossom, and you become a better mother and a person for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody, it's one of our sort of primary principles that everyone that's involved with Happy Mums has some kind of lived experience of maternal mental health problems. So, everyone that's involved has had psychosis, depression, anxiety, something. And we're normalising that in the good way, in the sense that, it's okay to have those kind of events in your life and to have that happen, and to maybe be a bit disappointed by how that birth experience went, or that first year after giving birth. But yeah, we've been through that, and we've come through it the other side, and that gives up a lot of hope as well to women, as they can see kind of where they might be in the future.
Well, that's a fabulous story to tell, and I want to tell everybody, because everybody in this room, I'm sure, will have some experience of somebody who's been through this, but now knows they're not going to have to be alone, because you're making a difference.
Yeah, and we know that 20% of women will experience it. Suicide is still one of the leading causes of death in the first year after birth, so there's work to be done here, and we're feeling a real push and a real movement nationally as well on maternal mental health, and really raising the profile of it. So it's great to be able to come to an event like this and be amongst people who will really get that and support our cause. So
Well, good luck this afternoon.